Welcome back, everyone. And the final AP rankings have been released, and it's no surprise to see the national champions as the unanimous number one. Yes, the Ohio State Buckeyes. But it might be a new era in college football. Slide to the left, SEC. The Big Ten occupies 3 of the top 5 spots in the final poll. And also the Indiana Hoosiers also find themselves in the top 10. And someone that knows something about being a top-ranked talent and doing a lot of great things on the college football gridiron is our guy, Eddie George, former Heisman Trophy winner. Eddie, great to see you, man. I know the vibes are immaculate for yourself, being an alum of this Ohio State Buckeyes program. But this is your 3rd national championship kind of experience that you've seen as an alum. So when you enter these type of ball games, what goes through you mentally, emotionally, because you're on the sidelines, you're not on the field taking part in this?
No, I'm not, and I'm living vicariously through these young men, watching them play. Ever since I stopped playing for Ohio State, I've always still been a fan. It's a brotherhood, and JP gets it. It's a brotherhood. No matter who was your head coach, whether it was John Cooper, Earl Bruce, Jim Tressel, Urban Meyer. It's the one common thread is that is always a brotherhood. There's always a level of respect. So you always want to do well, see them do well. But for me, when I was at Ohio State in the 90s, we hadn't won a national championship since 1968. So there was a long gap between when we won the national title to when I was playing. So that was always the forefront. It was, hey, win the Big Ten, go to the Rose Bowl, win a national championship. And we've gotten close to that when I was there, but we weren't able to get over the hump with the team up north. And now recently to have our 3rd national championship, you feel like you kind of paved the way to a certain degree to the excellence, to the persistence, to crossing the threshold to winning a national title. And this was nothing short of magnificent. For what Ryan Day had to endure after losing to Michigan and hearing about how soft they were and they weren't a great team and his job is on the line. There was a lot of pressure on the Buckeyes going into the playoff. In fact, they said that had they lost that first round against Tennessee, he probably wouldn't have a job. Well, guess what? They said that he had to win a national championship. He did just that. This is probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest team that Ohio State has seen because of what they had to go through to get there. They lost to Michigan. They had to go play the top-ranked national team in Tennessee. They beat the number 1 team in the country and the Big Ten champion, Oregon Ducks. Then played Texas, a hot Texas team from the SEC, and then playing a hot Notre Dame team who was very physical. This is probably arguably one of the greatest teams, that Ohio State has ever seen because of how they handle adversity and how they responded at the end of the year.
I agree with you. The path that they took is path that they chose, obviously, based off what they did in the regular season. But they embraced it, and they were able to finish the job. And I mentioned this yesterday. There was an emotion for me because I wanted the 4- and 5-year players who came back to be able to experience a championship because they hadn't really won anything. And Eddie, you know this from your individual accomplishments at Ohio State. It puts you in a different stratosphere. But I wasn't a guy who was an All-American. I didn't win national awards. I was a captain. I was a national champion. And for me, I could say that had a huge impact on my life. It's allowed me to come into this media game with a little bit of credibility. It's allowed me to go back to Columbus, Ohio, and not have to pay for meals or pay for drinks. And so for these guys, it is the accomplishment that can potentially change their lives, and I'm glad that they get to experience that.
Well, first of all, it's no small feat. Yeah, you were a dude, number one. Two, to be a captain. Listen, you were the C at Ohio State carries a lot of weight, brother. So, hey, once you've accomplished that, your national championship, that's something that's always eluded me. I've gotten some accomplishments, even at the professional level. I wasn't able to hoist up the Lombardi. I've come close on a lot of literally a yard shy of tying the ball game in that game. So, as a coach, I'm hoping to experience that at a national level. I've experienced that this year in our conference. But there's nothing like winning an award with your teammates because that's what it's about as a team sport. And you're for your brothers. And it's a lifetime of memories that you can always share with your teammates, man. So I get it. It was just an awesome night. I'm really happy for our school, our players, and certainly Coach Ryan Day.
No, I mean, as you mentioned, right, with Tennessee State, you got that taste of the conference championship and how that feels and what it builds into. So I'm glad our guys in Columbus got to experience what it feels like to be a national champ. But bigger picture here, first ever 12-team playoff. A lot of people had thoughts about it at the beginning. Maybe the thoughts have changed here now that it's over. But did you consider it a success, Eddie?
Yeah, very much so. I was talking to an executive for ESPN just yesterday about, hey, you guys knocked it out the park. It's perfect, and I like it the way it is. Some people want to say, okay, they should reseed some of the teams based off of how they ended. No. If you win your conference championship, you should get the bye. You should get that reward, because otherwise, what you're going to see in the conference championship games, there's teams sitting guys out, and you don't want to dilute a product from that. You should get rewarded for winning your conference. So, therefore, I have no problem. If it's a tough road to get to the national championship game, so be it. Don't complain about it. You're going to have to play somebody of note anyway. So I don't want to hear, they had an easier path and all. No, it's about physicality, putting the ball in the dirt, playing the game, no matter who you see. And the toughest team, the most healthiest team, is going to find a way to win the game and win the championship. So I love it the way it is. Don't tweak it. Don't touch it. Don't add more teams. It's perfect. We're right on the cusp of these kids really playing hurt and getting, and there were some serious injuries and all of that, but let's just keep it the way it is. I love it.
It's interesting because there are tweaks that I would make, but I think the one thing that a lot of us agree with is when you start to look at the paths that these teams would have had to take to make it to the national title, it's really hard to argue that they didn't have to play their best football and be the best team at the end of the year. So I really like that you said that. But Eddie, really appreciate your time. Know you're a busy man. Thanks for joining.
I need to know these tweaks from you, though, JP. I mean, we off air. I'm curious to know what these tweaks are.
We will have a conversation off air. That's our guy, Eddie George, joins us every week on the show. We're going to take a quick